Let's touch on GitHub repository rule sets, folks. And the reason I'm touching on this here today is because someone got a blocker at work, and it was because there was a rule set up, which was a good thing because it prevented them from doing something that could have damaged the repository. Now, we're covering this at a high level because there's multiple ways that you can configure rules in the rule sets, and again, it's just a matter of drilling into the doco and getting a feel for what does what, and then going and having a play around. But we will have a go at setting up a couple of rules and trying to do things on a repository, a test one, with those rules set up. Okay, so you do get a bit more functionality, folks, if you're using a GitHub organization with a plan, and you can pay for the features because it's limited to certain things. If your repositories are other than public, they're private, and it then asks you to upgrade. So I'm using my personal GitHub and not my organization, so I can actually set these rule sets because the organization repositories I have are private, most of them, and I only make them public when I'm sharing them with you guys, and then I can set rule sets. But in this case, I'm just going to set up rule sets privately here on a test repository, folks. Okay, so it tells you here, also you can set up the rules for certain users to be able to bypass them as well. I'll give you a demonstration of that because I am the administrator for my personal GitHub repositories, and we can see how that works, folks. There's a multitude of things you can do here. I'm going to set up paths as well using patterns for different branch names, and that can again be done on a case-by-case basis. But let's dive in, folks. I'll share the link to this here in the description as well, so you guys can have a little look at it. So I'll pull this in, and what I've got here, folks, is just a testing rule sets repository with just a basic readme in it. I've got no other branches, only the main branch. So on my local machine here, folks, I've already cloned the repository down, and it's just a mirror image of what we've seen in the remote. So let's go back to the remote, folks, and we'll come back here whenever we want to test out what's actually going to be initiated by the rules and the rule sets. So from the home page here, folks, we want to go to settings, and we want to come down to rules, rule sets, and when you get to here, folks, you can create a new rule set. I've already got one done here for the benefit of the tutorial. You can create multiple rule sets. It says in the doco up to 75, but again, that will depend on what type of plan you've got, folks, and it'll be with an organization. Testing rule sets is what I've called this one here. There's nobody in the bypass list, but I will show you what happens when someone is in the bypass list. For example, an administrator. Target branches, folks, I've done it using a pattern here. You can target all branches or the default branch, which is usually the main or the master, but I'm just doing it by pattern here. So if you include the pattern, you just type your pattern in and then add inclusion pattern. Most of my branches usually feature / with 2 stars, which will allow me any pattern after that /, folks, and the main branch as well here. So these are the target branches that are affected by the rule sets. There's a rule set up here, folks, underneath the branch rules. There is tag rules, and that's beyond the scope of the tutorial, folks, but it's again something you can dig down into and possibly make your rules more refined and a little bit more granular. But we're just doing branch rules for the benefit of this tutorial, folks. So this will prevent any branches from being deleted. This is the main one, folks, that happened at work today. Someone got this here, a rule initiated, and we couldn't directly see because if you've got your organization and a repository set up correctly, no one should be able to come in and see these settings without possibly getting a privileged role to come in and do so for a short period of time. Force pushes as well are blocked. These were actually set up by default, block force pushes and restrict deletions. I had to then set up the require a pull request before merging one, and within that, folks, you can set up a number of people that have to approve the changes. So I'm just setting one here, which would be myself, because I'm going to include myself in the bypass rules, which I'll show you later on. There is a multitude of other settings here, folks, and again, the type of merge methods, it's again down to your own discretion or your organization where you work at. There's also I'll just close that one down. A save changes at the bottom, and folks, you need to do that there before you pop out of the screen, otherwise they won't be saved. So I'm just going to click save there. There's no changes have been made because I didn't make any, but if there was, then it would show up, so it would to say you had changes made. So what we're going to do, folks, is just to highlight again, we've only got one branch here, and that's the main branch. If we were going to do any changes to the repository, we will check out a feature branch from the main, do our changes, and then do a pull request from there. Okay, so let's do a demonstration here now. So if I do get check out -b and feature /001. So we're on the feature branch. I'm just going to get rid of some white space here. If I run a get status, I've got changes in the readme. So if I do a get add -all get commit -m test push, and if I do a get push, it'll ask me to set this here for the first time as being an upstream origin remote. After that one, folks, you can just use get push from then on. So if I do that, those changes should go up with no problem. So this is because I've created this feature branch, folks, and I'm not targeting the main branch. If I tried to target a push onto the main branch, folks, it would come back with, you know, that rule kicking in. You have to actually create a feature branch. So if I go back just for a test, get check out main. I'm on the main here now. So I've got that white space again. So if I get rid of that, I try to do the same here. Get add, get commit, I'll call this test push on main. I try to push to main, folks, which would be a damaging thing to do. That rule has kicked in there, and it came up there and told us exactly what's happening. Changes must be made through a pull request, and that's from like a feature branch or the non-target branch. Okay, we're not targeting the likes of main here. Okay, it's the person at work didn't try to do that today because they had, you know, a bit of sense not to, but they were trying to do it using a feature branch that was already created in the remote, and they were trying to create a local. So I'll give you a demonstration of that as well, folks. So right now, if we go back to our remote, we can see there's a feature branch up here waiting on a compare and pull request. If I go in here, we can see now, if I refresh, hit main, I can see I've got two branches here. I can, whilst I'm on the main here, create a branch in the remote called feature /002. And I haven't got this on my local machine, folks. Okay, so what we've got up here now is three branches. I haven't got this feature 002 on my local. So if I come back to my local machine, folks, and I do a get branch -vv, this will show the locals, and if they're linked to a remote, folks, as well. But I can't see the feature 002 there. So if I do a get fetch, I'll pull in that feature 002. I can now check it out. Get check out feature -002, and now I'm on that branch, folks. Now, if I do a get pull, I'm already up to date because I fetched that down. But folks, if I try to push any changes to that branch is classed as a target branch. Just like whenever I tried to target the main here with a get push, if I wanted to create any changes on that feature 002, I would have to go and create another feature branch and actually initiate a pull request onto feature 002. And that's exactly what happened today. And it was something I learned from as well, because I didn't know about it. I had to go and test it afterwards because I'd never seen it before. And we can try a test on it, folks. So if I just get rid of that bit of white space there, do a get status. If changes in the readme, I'll just use the commands that have already been used. Get add, get commit, call feature /002, and get push. This will complain, so it will, because there's a rule set on it. And there you go. Changes must be made through a pull request. That branch, it was created in the remote. I fetched it down. I've checked it out, but I cannot push directly onto it because it's a target branch, folks. I haven't created that branch. All right. And that's a good thing, you know, that them rule sets can be set up to do. I mean, I could remove the one for these features, folks, and I could push to this feature, but it's just to prevent people from inadvertently doing something possibly that could damage a branch, you know, that might not be their feature branch. It could be someone else's feature branch, and they inadvertently push something to it and then, you know, damage their code and cause chaos. So it's a good thing just to initiate across everything that you have and be as protective as you can. All right. And just from that there, folks, as well, I want to show you the other rule that was set up on the remote. If I just refresh here and come to branches. So we've got these couple of extra branches. If I try to delete that one, it says you can't delete this protected branch. That's because of that rule set, folks. Prevent deletion. Okay. So I can't delete any of these branches. They're all protected by that rule set. Now, like I said before, there's a bypass. So if I come into settings again and come to rules and rule sets and come back into testing rule sets, I can add myself to this bypass list as a repository admin. Okay. And come down to the bottom here and save the changes. Rule set's been updated. Go to branches. And then I can delete these branches, folks. Simply just clicking on the little waste bin. If I had a refresh there, those branches are gone, folks. Which isn't a good thing, because if you were cutting around here and just deleting branches, you know, without thinking, you could, again, damage somebody's work. So there would be a multitude of roles and permissions set up, folks, in your organization to prevent you from doing this anyway. Okay. Or you could only delete your own branches. So with regards to this pull request, folks, that we can see here, if I go and compare and create this pull request here, I'll not bother giving it a meaningful title or a in-depth description. I'll just go and create pull request here. It was just for a bit of white space. Now, before I can merge this here, folks, it needs an approver. Like we discussed at the start, I just gave it one approval. Now, I won't be able to approve it because I haven't got a rule set up in the rule sets to say I can bypass it. All right. This is just going to check here whilst it's checking for the ability to merge, folks. Once that's done, that merge pull request should light up. I'm just going to refresh here. So all checks have passed, folks. And what this is telling me here is it's blocked. It's requiring one approver to approve. It's grayed out here. Merging is blocked due to failing merge requirements. So I can't approve it, folks, because I'm not on the approvers list, because I'm not allowed to directly approve my own, which is good practice. Okay. But if I go into the settings here, which I'm allowed to do because I own the repository and I'm the administrator, I can go back into the rule sets, testing rule sets, and just add a bypass there. I'll put the repository admin that can bypass it, go down and save again. And I will come back to pull requests. I will go into that pull request, come down, and merge without waiting for requirements to be met, bypass rules. Okay, click that. I'm allowed to bypass the rules now, folks, which isn't a good thing. You do not want to set that up to be allowed to be done. Okay, it's better to actually get someone else's eyes on it, like an experienced developer or senior developer, or a couple of them. A minimum of 2 is a good thing, folks. Okay, possibly 3 depending on the importance of the repository and what it does. Okay, so I can bypass it there, folks. And confirm bypass rules. If I wanted to change anything here with the description, I'm confirming it. And now that's into main. Okay, so that's done and dusted, folks. If I come over here to main, that change has been made, but it was just a piece of white space, so we're not going to see anything getting changed here. But just bear that in mind, folks. It's not a good thing to be able to, review your own pull requests. So I would advise against that. It's saying here for everything or only for pull requests. I would just advise against it, so I would. And just click save there, so I'm not allowed to. And then you would put some approvers, folks, on a list to say that they were approvers or code owners as well, or another good one, folks, they own the repository. But it's again another dive down a little rabbit hole in order to set that up itself. But yeah, any questions, as always, just ask, folks, or do a little bit of research yourself and see how you get on. Let us know. There's a lot of functionality, folks. GitHub is a big beast in itself, and it's a good thing, worth learning those types of things. But just knowing about these rule sets, we learned something from that today, which was a good thing. And definitely, folks, just coming into your settings, taking 5 minutes to set up those rule sets. That's what I do when I'm sharing our repository, as a public repository with any of you guys, so you can't, do those there inadvertently by accident, and it would just damage the code for anyone else that wanted to come and use it. So if you've got any questions, folks, have a play around with this. But as always, I leave this one with you and wish you all the best. Take care and good luck.